Hello guys, welcome back. This is the second part of me playing against a new student of mine. As I mentioned in the first video, I never met him still. We never had a lesson before. These two games that I'm playing against him are kind of in order to get to know him better, to try to assess his weaknesses and his good parts about his game. So on the previous game, I had the black pieces. I had very difficult times holding a draw because I was playing a variation in the opening that I really didn't knew. So this time I will stick to something that I do know, just to try to put some more pressure on him in the opening, see how he deals with that. He played a very solid game in the other game. So he plays Sicilian with knight c6. Let's go for the open Sicilian, see what he has up his sleeve there. Are we going to have a Sveshnikov with e5? Like in the World Championship matches? Yes, we do. Ladies and gentlemen, the Sveshnikov. So we have basically maybe one of the most popular Sicilian defenses these days. I think ever since Magnus Carlsen played it in his World Championship match with the black pieces against Caruana, practically it kind of came back to fashion. A very principled variation, also can be very sharp. Bishop g5 is now the main move, and I'm going to try to play something very theoretical in this game, kind of to test my opponent's and future student of mine knowledge in the opening. In this position there are two options which are very different from each other. One is to play knight d5 immediately and then take on f6. Then black is in time to play bishop e7 and recapture with the bishop. And there is the option that I'm going to play, which is to take on f6 first and then play knight d5. Because black is threatening to fork me with the move b4. And my knight on d5 will be sitting very well. Now at the beginning, this opening, and I'm talking about maybe 50 years ago, this opening was considered to be like a joke. Like nobody would play like this because people would immediately assume that black is doing very badly with such a strong knight sitting in the center. But some players over, if I'm not mistaken, the 70s and the 80s made some efforts to make this opening playable. They would be claiming that the knight on d5 is not permanent. They would slowly try to fight against it with moves like knight e7 and bishop e6. Then they would go for some counterplay with this massive pawn center that black has. And also we should not forget that black has the two bishops advantage, so once the position might get opened up at some point, these bishops can really be very happy. Let's play c3. That's I didn't play a lot of Sveshnikov in the last couple of years, but c3 used to be my favorite move against Sveshnikov. I even remember reading about this move in some chess opening theory book that I had as a child. This move contains a lot of very subtle tricks. For example, if black now greedily tries to take on e4, then the move bishop takes b5 actually wins on the spot, as far as I know, because when black takes on b5, knight takes b5. This threat on c7 is extremely strong. It's really not easy to parry. The correct move in this position for black is to keep developing his pieces, bishop g7 and castles. I'm wondering if he knows that. He's taking his time to think a little bit. Another common mistake here is to play bishop e6. Looks like a logical move, developing the bishop, but then I can take on f5, and he would lose a tempo because he would take on f5 in two tempos rather than one. Because this can be my next move. Yeah, so he plays bishop g7. That's the best move. I'm going to take on f5. He should take back the pawn. And then what I want to do is take this knight from a3, which is completely misplaced at the moment, and get it back into the center of the board. I must do it sooner rather than later, because if I don't do it right now, I might never be able to do so. Another very good point about the move knight c2, it enables my pawn on a2 to move forward and create some counterplay against his pawns on the queen side. That's also a very good way for me to activate my rook into the game. Now he has two moves in his disposal. Yes, the move that he made, castles, is probably the main move. Another move was to play bishop e6 first. Now, a lot of people would automatically play bishop g6 here in order to maintain the control over that diagonal. But I think it's actually very important to play bishop e6. Yes, in order to keep some pressure against the knight on d5. This is a very important strategic square in this position. Black always has to keep some pressure against this square. This is why also the move knight e7 would be very important later on. At the moment, let's finish our development. Bishop d3, my next move would be to castle. Now he must play f5 here. There are a lot of good things to say about that move. First of all, activating his pawn majority in the center. You can see that black has 3 pawns in the center, white has almost 0. This is why in general black should be happy to push his pawns forward. Also, it's blocking this diagonal for my bishop, because if it would be my move right now, this move would be pretty devastating. The pawn on h7 would be under attack. There would be no clear way to defend it properly, so that's why the absolute only move here is f5. I don't really think any other move makes sense. So he's taking a little bit of time to think, so I will assume these stuff are kind of new to him. This is probably not, he's kind of probably out of book at this point. He plays queen g5. Well, I've never seen this move. It's probably not a good move in this position. I think the main reason that this queen is not stable there. So at the moment I can just play h4 and push it away. And I'm not sure if this queen can really maintain its control over the king side. So h4 must be the move. His queen is way too active there. Let's play h4. So the queen is really short of squares. She can only go back to d8 or play queen h6. Queen h6 is very risky because the queen might get trapped there. I might even just play for g4 and g5, and the queen is literally just trapped on h6. And also the move, okay, yeah, so queen h6. So I have a couple of very good options here. One of them is, as I mentioned, to play g4 and try to trap his queen. I have a lot of good options here. I think also I can just play some moves like knight f5 or knight g4. This will force him to give me his bishop, which is, I think, a huge achievement if I can get his bishop, because this will make my bishop extremely powerful. He would have no counterpart. So a lot of good options, but what is the best move? That's what I'm wondering. So these two moves are very serious candidates. We have this candidate. Probably that's it. I don't see other moves which make that much sense. Perhaps also both of these moves are, maybe even all of these moves are equally good. So the only thing I slightly am worried about the move g4 is that he can maybe at some point maybe take on d5 and push on e4, get some counterplay in the center of the board. That's that's what slightly worries me. That's why I slightly prefer these options. They seem at the very least safer. Probably knight f5 would be my favorite, just because it's also forcing him to take, and the bishop on f5 would block his pawn from advancing. So should I just play it or search for something even stronger? Looks pretty satisfying to me. Let's play this move. So he must take, otherwise the queen is trapped. My bishop on f5 is actually doing a very good job, or will do a very good job, because he will control both of these escaping squares for his queen. So actually the idea of playing g4 and g5 will be still alive there. His queen will still get trapped by this potential sequence. The reason why I'm not worried or bothered at all about moving my pawns on the king side is because of the fact that my king is still not committed to castling short. So in worst case, I can always try to castle long. And as long as the center remains closed up and there are any open lines against my king, I should be pretty safe in this sense. So I think black's position is pretty bad right now. These pieces have a lot of control over the light squares, and I must say that this plan is very serious. It's not so easy to deal with. I think if it's my move right now, there is a good chance that I'll go g4. So what other things can he do? He would be very happy to play knight e7 and exchange my very strong knight on d5. So in theory, he should be happy to play rook e8, preparing knight e7, also preparing to push this pawn forward. But there might be some tactical problem with this move, because then I can immediately play bishop d7. So he found another way. He found the move rook a7 with the same idea to exchange after knight e7. It's probably a good move. Now a very critical question: what happens if I play g4? You will probably be forced to play f6 to stop my pawn. It's a pretty serious deal there. I think I should still play g4 because the move f6 is extremely weakening for him. So let's play g4. I don't really see other options than f6. Otherwise g5 just traps the queen. If my rook on h1 would be defended, then I would be happy to play still the move g5 after f6 and go for some attack. So in this position, if I want to go for cheapos, I can take on f6, check on d5, and basically win a pawn. But it seems to be a little bit cheap, like to go to try to get a pawn like this. I much rather go for some kind of attack, because I feel like with these two pawns already displayed, being displayed on g4 and h4, this type of move should be extremely dangerous for him. I just need to find the good timing to do so. So I must castle long at some point. I must connect my rooks. The problem is that this square is being controlled by his queen, so it's not obvious. It's not obvious. His next move is definitely knight e7. This one I'm very confident about. So maybe what I need to do is just to make a move against his move. basically trying to stop knight e7, but it's not so easy to do. I can have a lot of interesting options, but that's the problem with chess. You can only choose one. But what I do know that if my rook would be defended right now, g5 would be a nearly winning move. So an idea is to play rook h3. Maybe that's the best move. And then when I'm playing g5, then my rook is defended. It's a very subtle move. But I don't see why not. And I'm low on time. Let's play rook h3, see where it takes us. So the idea, as mentioned, is actually two ideas. The rook is first of all very useful on h3. I feel like it should be good for me to have the options of going rook g3 or maybe even in the center in some positions. This must be useful. But really the main idea is to push g5. And then it would have to take. I would be taking on g5. My rook would be defended by the bishop. His queen will have to take my pawn on g5. And then I will have the move bishop takes h7, which exposes his king. And I don't think he will survive such a strong attack. Then my rook from h3 might also be joining the attack from f3. Yeah, I'm happy about the move rook h3. I'm not sure if he has too much to show as a response because his pieces are not very well coordinated for the defense of his king. Also, you might notice how passive is this bishop on g7 in comparison with my bishop on f5. This is a killer bishop. He looks everywhere. His bishop is practically operating like a pawn at the moment. You can regard to this bishop as a pawn. He can barely move. Technically he can play bishop h8. That might be a chance for him, and then his rook might assist in the defense of the pawn on h7. I would then still play g5 probably. Yeah, it looks pretty bad, I must say. So probably queen g5 was just a very critical mistake and probably a very big gap or hole in the theoretical knowledge there, because I feel like it's a must play move or a must know move, the move f5. Probably once you play the move queen g5, the position is already pretty difficult for him, but once again we can check this later on. Bishop h8, yes, so he's trying to set up some defense. So I have two options here, both look very tempting. One of them is to just go with the planned move g5. Let him take on g5. H takes g5. If he played queen takes, there is rook g3. This is winning. No doubt. This is winning. Another option, which I think is equally good, is to play check, kind of forcing him to go king g7 and then play knight e3, trying to play for knight f5, which tries to emphasize how bad his bishop is on h8, because he's kind of blocking the queen for going back to h8. But g5, I must say, it's just looks very forcing, and it's very difficult to refrain from playing a move that you clearly see that he's winning concretely. Even though I must say that bishop e6 is probably just also extremely strong. Maybe even more aesthetic, because then white will play for a complete domination. Tough choice there, for sure. I'm getting low on time though, so I will be forced to make up my mind. So probably what he will do, he will take on g5 with the queen, rook g3, rook f5, rook g5, rook g5, and he will get what it is, a rook, a bishop and a pawn versus the queen, and he will have some chances to survive because he eliminated most of my attack. You know what, let's play bishop e6. Probably g5 is more forcing, but I want to illustrate something. I want to illustrate how strong is my attack thanks to the opposite colored bishops here. That's, I think, the main cause for troubles for black here. His bishop not only does not contribute to his defense too much, because the attack is coming from the light squares. That's why his bishop cannot do too much to assist. It is even taking away some very important squares from the king. So king g7 seems like a forced move. He can also block on f7, which is probably, yeah, he's doing that. Okay. So g5, if he takes now, suddenly my bishop will be under attack. I'm also not forced to take on f7. I'm not in any hurry to do that. Let's play knight e3. Looks like a safe move. Trying to increase my pressure over his position. No reason to take on f7, as I will take on f7 only when I will be forced to do so. Yeah, this position I think is completely winning for white. Probably still not resignable for black. He can try to play it for a little bit. Rook d7. I think it's a blunder, because now I have bishop d7, rook d7, queen d5 check, and his knight is hanging, so he will not lose an exchange, but probably the full rook, so probably now he will resign. This is kind of already too much to handle. Yeah. So this game was much more one-sided than the other one, just because, I think mainly because of that one mistake in the opening. Queen g5 was just very unfortunate. I think already you see that the engine is showing more than +2 advantage for white after h4, when he says the best move is just to go back on d8, which is obviously a very sad move. And after this, you see it's already, already a very big advantage for white. So yeah, basically I feel like in this position it's already pretty one-sided, so the rest of the game was not that interesting. So queen g5, we see a little bit of an opening kind of knowledge being incomplete there. So basically what I have to say about Mr. Upshot in general, very solid player. Maybe has some small gaps in the opening knowledge which should be addressed. When he had a solid position the first game, he played almost a flawless game, so probably in his home territory plays very well. Here the position was very difficult from a very early stage of the game, so it's even difficult to say anything, even if we have, I don't know, like Magnus Carlsen with the black pieces, he would probably also not be able to hold black's position. Anyway, I hope that you as a viewer enjoyed this kind of instructive game with the commentary and my observation about my new student, and we'll try to keep you updated about what is going on with us. So thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned for some future event that I'm going to make, as I mentioned about me having 3,000 subscribers I hit recently. So might be a simul, might be some stream playing against viewers, we will see. It should happen pretty soon. So thank you guys for watching, stay tuned. Let me know in the comments if you like this format of this video and the previous one, and I will see you very soon. See you guys, bye bye.